Podcast, folks. We have a great show in store for you today. We sit down with a U.S. Army veteran, a mental health veteran advocate, and author with an extremely unique name. But first,
hello, friends, and welcome to another exciting episode of Today with Tally. The mission and goal of this podcast is to bring an engaging conversation that will add value to the lives of everyday people. We will inspire, encourage, educate, and tell the stories of America's finest men and women in an effort to motivate you to live your life to its fullest potential. Be sure to follow us on social media and search Today with Tally. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and share the program as well. Ladies and gentlemen, your host of the evening, Mr. Brian Tally.
our next guest is Betsy Ross. That's right, Betsy Ross, U.S. Army veteran and author. She has a book series, a 4-book series titled Fight. And she is also a veteran advocate who really specializes in mental health in her community. With that, we are honored to be joined by Betsy herself. Good morning.
Hello. Good morning.
Betsy. So look, we have a mutual friend, and I believe in Jason Steiner out of Nebraska. He said, you know what? I got to connect you with Betsy. She'd be great for the show. A couple of emails went back and forth, and here you are. Welcome to the Today with Tally podcast.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I've heard great things about you and your book series and everything that you're doing in your community. So we wanted to get it out there, and we wanted to highlight you and everything that you're doing, because it's all important work that's being done throughout the country. And, a lot of the times when people are talking about veterans, it's always the bad things about veterans, that a lot of folks are going through and struggling with. But there is so much great out there that veterans are doing. I like to highlight that as well, just to know that, hey, look, the work that is being done, it does work. And, if you buy into that hope and, have a little faith, your life can turn around, through meeting people such as yourself that go out there and, and put boots on the ground in the community. And, again, put that helping hand out there to other veterans that may be in need. So where are you from? Where did you grow up, Betsy?
I am actually from Texas, eastern side of Texas. It's where I was born and raised.
What part of Texas?
Northeastern, over by the Tyler, Longview area, if you will.
Okay, yeah, I'm in Houston.
Perfect.
Yeah,
you're about 5 or 6 hours.
Right, yeah, Texas is a big state. Yeah, I'm thinking,
yeah.
5-6 hours in the Northeast will get you through 7 states, right?
Something like that. So we're practically neighbors.
Yeah, right. Look at it like that. Yeah, absolutely. So you would end up joining the U.S. Army out of high school?
No, actually, I went to a junior college first, and then I ended up going into the Army.
What inspired you to join the Army?
Well, I was an Air Force brat. I have a lot of family members that are Air Force, and I almost went Air Force, but it just didn't feel like me. And then I guess I really started to gain more confidence physically in my abilities. And I was like, okay, maybe I can join the military. And then when I started to look into all the branches, Army just felt more fitting for me. And that's just where I went. So I ended up being the black sheep of the family, being the only Army one.
And what did you do in the Army?
Well, I was supposed to be an ammunition specialist, but it's hard to do stateside since civilians seem to be doing that. But so I was basically just a truck driver, and I did all the details.
What'd you drive?
The LHS. That was pretty much my baby.
Yeah, that's some newer technology there.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
Awesome. So how long would you actually serve in the Army?
I was only in a couple years before getting chaptered out.
And would you say that you had a good 2 years, was it tough? Was it, is it something that you can look back on and say, you know what, those were some great years, or was your experience not so good in the Army?
Overall, I guess it was more bittersweet. I mean, there was a lot of bad things. I probably wouldn't. I mean, when you think about joining the military, you have your idea of what it's going to be like, and then when you get there, it's not what you thought. So it was definitely bittersweet, but I felt that I was kind of cut short on my potential, if you will. I wanted to do more while in the uniform, but life had other plans for me. And so eventually I started the series, and I'm wanting to help and give back to veterans, because I don't think my fight is done with the Army, that I can still do more.
Yeah, it's not like the commercials.
No, it's not.
It's kind of like seeing that McDonald's commercial of the perfect Big Mac, and then you go get a Big Mac and you're like, dude, it's like
Yes.
bait and switch.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you said it's not all, it's not all like how they make it out to be, the whole, hurry up and wait and this and that. Yeah, it's all part of the middle game though.
Oh yeah.
For sure. Let's talk about your book. So you get out and you begin to write, correct?
More or less. It took a few years, but I eventually started to come up with this story plot that, veterans who transition out of the military, it's not always black and white. It's not always, what people think when you're given these resources, or you're given this information, and you're going back to family, or you're starting a new life. It is not a pretty picture for many of us. Now, a lot of veterans they're very successful. They start businesses. They're good entrepreneurs. They're basically harnessing all those skills they learned, speaking and whatnot in the military. Well, when they come on the civilian side, they can just, take off and make things happen. But a lot of people do struggle. There's so much going on, and stereotypes, and so many hardships that many veterans do face when they get out of the military that no one talks about. I mean, they hear PTSD, they hear VA, they hear these things, but they don't really know what's going on inside that veteran. And that's where fight really came in, especially because I had a hard time transitioning out of the military, and it was a very, very dark time for me. So I think it took almost 4 years for me to really come out on the other side of that dark state of mind I was in. And that's where fight came in. And then ever since then, I've been meeting other veterans and talking with them, getting on more podcast shows, and really just helping get the word out that veterans struggle. Not all of us have a pension. Not all of us get to go to the VA. Not all of us, all have the cupcakes and rainbows people always talk about. We kind of struggle, and oftentimes we're struggling alone.
Well, what were some of the struggles that you dealt with?
Getting out, I was in the process of a divorce. I didn't have a place to stay, so I was staying in my vehicle. I was jumping couch to couch. I had jumped into school thinking that was a good idea, starting a new career. And so I was going to school. I was drinking heavily. I was hanging out with people I shouldn't be. I was just in a very dark state of mind. I can't really describe it easily. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I was doing with my life. It was just a hard time. And then, of course, when I tried to communicate with veterans again at that time, they were like, oh, you're just a pogue. You didn't do anything. And they kind of cut me off. My chain of command didn't really talk to me anymore. So I felt like I had nobody. And then, of course, trying to communicate with my family, I realized they weren't understanding my dark sense of humor. They weren't understanding the jargon I was using. They didn't understand just that state of mind that I was in from, in that transition process. And so I sort of just felt lost. I had no mentor. I didn't feel like I could depend on anybody. And so all of that into one, I was like, people aren't talking about this. I was in those classes where they would help you transition out, but none of it really seemed to help me. And I knew I wasn't alone in that. So I started just voicing these hardships that many veterans do face.
Now, it said it took you about 4 years to really get out of, from that dark place that you were in to finally transitioning into being a civilian again and somebody that would contribute back into society. Now, during that 4-year period, what happened? What were you doing during that 4 years? Were you holding down a job, or did you just couch surf for 4 years before you said, you know what, I got to figure out what I'm going to be and what I'm going to do for the rest of my life?
Well, I only couch surfed probably a year because it took me 3 months to get a job, and then that employer ended up going bankrupt and they shut down. So I did jump jobs quite a bit, even though, again, I was still a full-time student, but I was jumping jobs a little bit. I was trying to make friends again. I was just in that process of trying to start over. And eventually, I think it was probably two years in, I had met my now current husband, and we ended up starting a family. And then I started to feel, okay, this is the normal way. And then, of course, my career had started at that time and started growing. So it was kind of a large combination of things.
Mm-hmm. So you lived out of your car for a little while. You started self-medicating with alcohol. You kind of made yourself numb. And, one thing would lead to another, and you would actually end up saying, okay, no more of this. Okay, I'm getting better now. And through my experience, I want to become an author, and I want to write about it to see if I can potentially really help myself through my own therapy while helping others out there cope with getting out of the military and perhaps some of the struggles that they may be going through on a regular basis that a lot of guys and gals may not come out and really publicly state because of that stigma that may be attached to some of that. And really, a lot of folks that are in the military have that alpha-centric type personality that they don't want to come out and admit weakness. Because a lot of folks will look at that as, oh, that's a weak body right there, when really it takes a lot of courage to stand up and ask for help. Now, let's talk about fight. Okay, it's something you sat down and you put pencil to paper. What were your initial thoughts on fight? Because you got a 4-book series here. Describe book 1.
Book 1 was meant to just be a book 1. It wasn't meant to be a series. I had a lot to say, like real talk. Fight 1 took me 6 months to write. I had a lot to say, and I did use it as a self-therapy, self-journey method, if you will, because I felt like I had a lot to say, that there was a lot of internal stuff going on. I didn't feel that I could say in those moments, especially when talking to civilians or talking with my family. I realized there was a lot of those stigmas and stereotypes that you would assume is just veteran related, that, there's more to say. But when it comes to mental health or psychology or anything that not everything is black and white. Not everything is face value. Not there's a lot of in between the lines, going on, especially internally. And we don't always find the words to be able to express that. So I put a lot into fight. And then it wasn't until after it was published that I realized, we could go on further with homelessness or addictions or, just the different, I really branched out to different actual stereotypes and just some emotional warpaths that many veterans could be facing.
So your first book is Real Talk?
It kind of introduces more of that first initial coming out of the military and going back into families, those past memories that we just don't want to let go. And then, of course, it brings up suicides and just those initial PTSD type symptoms or thoughts or episodes, if you will. it kind of it's more of a generalized introduction to veterans awareness and PTSD and suicide and depression and stuff like that.
Gotcha. You know, the whole self-therapy, when you sat down to write a book, so many of these times, especially veterans that have successful 501c3s, they create this because, and I think in hindsight, they're thinking, okay, well, I'm going to help others. And really, they're helping themselves as they help others. And again, I mean, I know a lot of very successful guys that run a lot of great programs and organizations. And I often ask them, you're helping so many veterans through your own organization, but what does it do for you? And they'll say, it's healing me. And I don't know if I'll ever really fully be healed from what I went through or what I saw or things I can't unsee. But I tell you what, that camaraderie and hanging out with like-minded individuals and breaking bread and all that stuff, it does nothing for me but bring me joy. And when you have that joy and you have that peace in your life during those periods of time, really at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's about saving lives. It's about, reconnecting with like-minded individuals. The military and veteran community, it's a small world, but it's a big world. I mean, we got 20.2 million American veterans in this country. And a lot of them have suffered in silence. We do have 22 a day, veterans taking their own lives. And, I've heard, could be up to 40 or as low as 15, I guess, depending on what the stats are and where you're getting the stats from. Sometimes they can be, low, sometimes high, but regardless, that's too many, especially for a vulnerable group, who decided to sign that blank check and, to go out and fight for your country. Now, you are very, you have a lot of, you help the homeless community, and you also speak on addiction. Can you explain what you do in the homeless community?
Well, right now it's more of just spreading the awareness, which is what the Fight series is. Since I basically turned it into more of a mission statement of getting the word out there that we do have a lot of veterans that suffer in silence, as you said, and many do end up homeless, but there are different reasons for that. And Fight doesn't necessarily go into all the details for that, but it definitely, I'm sure with any of the readers picking up the books, that it really gives them more insight of what could be going on, that we need to be more open-minded when you're speaking with veterans, that not everything, just because you see the anger, just because you see these stereotypical emotions, if you will, it's just not always black and white. But as far as actually working in my community, I haven't found a way to really put boots on the ground with that type of situation yet. I am trying to reach out to more veterans and be a part of more groups where I can help more. But right now, Fight series is more of a book series, but also trying to help get the word out there across social media, across communicating with other veterans and their 501cs and their podcasts and their groups, and just basically be a part of that group and the camaraderie, like you had said, that, if we come together, we can make this happen and do something about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's a lot of folks out there that are making it happen every single day and that are improving the lives of others and giving them that, again, that hand up, right? And not a hand out. And again, getting them off the streets, putting them in, to a facility where they can do a 30, 60, 90 day rehab programs. A lot of them are on drugs and, are very, addicted to alcohol and, a lot of the, bad things out there that addiction will, further bring. And that's where a lot of the, like you were saying, raising awareness will come in. for a lot of these type programs, or for people that may not really understand what is really going on out there. I know you live in a fairly small town, so homeless veterans are probably not really prevalent where you're at. Like, if you were in a big city like Houston or Dallas or San Diego or Cleveland,
Sure.
where it's more susceptible. Have you ever thought about maybe hitting the road and, maybe going out to some of these bigger cities and kind of going into some of these homeless camps and, and sitting down and speaking with them?
I have not, but that is a good idea. I'd probably have to find a group to actually do that instead of doing it by myself, because they'd probably just be wondering I'm just some creep trying to, steal their own trend or whatever they're doing. But that is a good idea, though, to actually be more of a part of it. Mm-hmm. But I do have a lot going on outside of everything. So it's like I'm trying to find a way where I can manage everything while still trying to promote the fight series.
Yeah, I mean, just an option to get in the hearts and minds of a homeless veteran, I think would really help you, perhaps in book number 5, and describing and painting that picture of a day in the life of, and the struggles on the streets and everything that they go through. There's a lot of crime. Oftentimes, again, being so vulnerable, they open themselves up to a lot of really bad things that happen on the streets. And again, without people really knowing and understanding what these folks go through on a daily basis, it's hard to kind of put a finger on it and say, you know what? Yeah, I mean, I really do want to help these folks out there that are struggling. I have a great friend, Timothy Hickey, that lives in Cleveland with Sub-Zero mission. And, he goes out there and he goes right into the camps, and he sits down, he talks to these guys and brings them coats and blankets and all that stuff. I know it gets pretty cold there in Cleveland. But he builds relationships with a lot of these guys, and he gets them out of that dark place, and he kind of sets them up with that second lease on life, if you will, or third lease. It's not always the first, time that you get off the streets that you're saying, yep, I'm perfect now. A lot of people go back and, because that's where they feel as if their home is, because they've been out there for such a long period of time. They've built relationships, on the streets, and, and like I said, it can be a very dangerous place. And, it's a place that you can really get stuck. Like, what they say a lot of folks about prison. You spend 10, 15, 20 years in prison, you get out and you're like, man, I kind of want to go back to prison because I'm not understanding all this civilian stuff out here. I mean, like, and it's very structured, right? So, I mean, a lot can probably be said about the homeless community as well, because now you've got responsibilities, you've got bills to pay, you've got, you're checking all these monthly boxes, keep your lights on and your gas and all that other stuff. So, that can be, a lot to put on somebody who's been on the streets for perhaps, quite some time now. If I'm interested in purchasing one of your books, now I know I can get it on Amazon, but when you said that you first wrote your original book, that it wasn't intended on being a series. So are all the books titled Fight with subtitles, or can you explain that? So if people want to go out and maybe get book 3, they know what they're Googling and how to purchase it.
Right. They are all called fights, but it'd be fight 1, fight 2, fight 3, but they do have subtitles. Fight 2 to fight again, fight back's 3, to fight on is fight 4. So I can imagine those should pop up. Usually you have to put in Fight by Betsy Ross to do it. It's weird, but just the search engine in Amazon, there's a lot of titles called Fight, so you have to put Fight by Betsy Ross.
Mm-hmm. Folks, you heard it right there. You can find Betsy's books online. Google Amazon, go to Fight by Betsy Ross, or just go to Amazon. You don't got to Google it. Just go to Amazon, search Fight by Betsy Ross, and all of her books will pop up. You can get the books there, book 1, 2, 3, and 4. And hear what she's got to say about the real talk and her self therapy and going through some of the life struggles and obstacles that she encountered that will probably a lot of you out there will relate to and resonate with. And then she dives into homelessness and addictions. Now, can you explain some of the awareness that you're raising in these books?
Well, truthfully, that's more of generalized way because of how it is written. It's written so whether you're a veteran or not, you are able to, in some form or fashion, relate to the characters that are going through their own thinking process and whatnot. I give limited details as far as, what that character thinks or feels or sees, because I wanted it to be where anyone was able to relate to it. But as far as the general addictions and homelessness, it's more of just mentioning it. It's more of just stating that there is an issue, that many veterans are feeling this, that it is a problem. But it was really to give an insight, the emotional and mental side of just the different roller coaster ride of just life, whether it's the daily things in life, whether you listen to a song, whether it's just a word someone says that can trigger memories or emotions that you felt. And it's just a glimpse that barely gets, covers the surface, that there's a lot going on inside of us. I mean, we're only human, but we got to be able to process just everything and the changes that are taking place being a civilian again.
Sure. Yeah. You nailed it. It's not just veterans struggle. Everybody struggles in this life. It's
Right.
tough. Life isn't easy. It's hard. We all have life challenges, life struggles, grief, addiction issues, work issues, home life, balance, kids.
Yes.
There's so much always going on. And sometimes you need to stop and perhaps maybe just go outside, sit down, listen to the leaves blow, listen to the birds, smell the roses, live in the moment, because so many of us, we just let life it's so fast, it's so fast. And so that's one thing I've done. I used to be one of those rat race guys that just went in until I couldn't go anymore. And then you find yourself kind of picking up the pieces saying, holy cow. And so living a life of gratitude, is definitely something that has helped me throughout my own therapy and grieving process moving forward. And, I deal with a lot of physical pain and mental pain. But really, I've also learned, too, that dealing with those issues is a lot easier to do when you're happy. Than when you're sad and self-isolating. Dealing with all that other stuff, it's kind of like it just compounds like interest if you don't ever get out of that dark place. And then the pain just seems to be worse, and the anxieties and the depressions of life just seem to get worse. But like I said, if you're happy and you're appreciating life and you are living that life of gratitude, again, everything becomes more manageable. And really, at the end of the day, if you can manage it, you can get through it. And that's where I always like to say that's getting that 1% better every single day. You can't do it all in one false swoop. It'll just add more anxiety to you because you can't change overnight, kind of like folks that gain a bunch of weight and they want to lose it all overnight. So they eat good for 2 days and then they don't see anything coming off. They quit. It takes years and years and years to get better. It really does. It's a long process. It is not a sprint. It is definitely a marathon. But take a quick 30 seconds here. Give our today's show sponsor a shout out. Chase's Choice, our great friends out in Canyon City, Colorado. Check them out today, chaseschoice.org, or call Ken, the owner, directly, 719-371-0768. Now, Chase's Choice is an industry leader in cannabis and hemp products and continues to heal those in need, including me. Whether you are struggling from physical pain, anxiety, depression, or having trouble sleeping, I checked all 4 of those boxes. There's a product for you that will improve the quality of your life. We are back with our guest today, Betsy Ross. That's an awesome name. Betsy Ross. Man, like the flag. I love it.
Yes.
And there you go, standing in front of the flag, the old Betsy Ross. Now, is Betsy Ross just like your author name, or is that your real name?
No, it's just my author name.
Love it, man. That's a cool name to have. I tell you what, maybe I need to get me a podcasting name. I don't know what I call myself. The Tally Man. I don't know. So you've got 4 books. Book 5 getting written yet?
At this point, it's just supposed to be 4 books because it's a realistic fiction. So when would it really end? Life continues. Life keeps going. There are a lot of personalities out there facing different hardships and different emotional roller coasters because life is life. But at this point, it's just a 4-book series.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about today?
I guess just reiterating what the fight mission overall is, just keep fighting the fight. All of us have a fight within us. And as always, veterans and 501cs and every veteran podcast I listen to, they always mention camaraderie. Camaraderie is like the number one thing that most veterans seem to miss from the military. And when veterans get together, it's pretty amazing. Things happen. And if you can find a group that is for you, that fits your personality, what you're going through, they understand you, don't lose sight of that. There's so many good things in life that we can still accomplish, that we can still reach. If you just keep fighting the fight another day, things will be okay.
Mm-hmm. Can you share with us some of the coping strategies and techniques that you have used to improve the quality of your life?
Well, for me, definitely writing. Writing has, even if they ended up in the trash, whether it was a poem, whether it was just a short story, and then, of course, fitness. I really got heavy, more so in working out, whether it was 3 a.m., whether it was noon, it didn't matter. Working out, running. Like today, I went on a 4-mile run, and that's my therapy. Health is good too, but I mainly do it for just the therapy, it's my outlet. Listening to music, whether I'm lifting weights or I'm running, physical fitness is my go-to. So for me, writing, working out, and then of course I'm very preoccupied with 3 kids and a cow ranch and snake farm, and I have a lot going on. So I stay preoccupied and that way on the home front too. And then of course, speaking with veterans through the Fight series, my readers, my followers, joining podcasts, and just meeting other veterans in general. That's my go-to. That helps me feel like I have a purpose, that I am a somebody again, that even without the uniform, I may feel like I have failed the Army, but I'm not going to fail my veterans, my fellow veterans, that, no one gets left behind.
There's so many ways to serve. You don't always need to have a uniform on to serve, and
Sure.
It looks like that you're serving, your country again and your community and your great state of Texas by putting books out there that can perhaps get into the hearts and minds of millions and change lives, and, poetic justice, right? Having the lyrics and all that, like music and musicians, it's like, it speaks directly to you, and, sometimes it takes a book or a podcast or a song or getting out and running and having that positive energy, and, and you have things start to happen in your life. You got that positive, energy. I believe in energy, because once I lived in a chair for 4 years and I was done with life. And until I found that, we're all energy, and what you put out is what you're going to get back. So if you put out something that's positive and, something that's going to, increase your endorphins and all that other stuff, you're going to get all that great positivity back. And, running is one of those things, and writing. I mean, talk about feeling good about yourself and, being, confident. These are all hallmarks of what it takes to live a successful life, really. And, without that, you probably wouldn't be the mother you are, and, the wife you are. I mean, you're very busy. You're an author. You're a veteran advocate. You're a cattle rancher. You have a snake farm, 3 kids, and you're married. Explain the cattle farm. Man, let's get into the cattle ranch.
Longhorns, of course, Texas Longhorns mainly. We have some crossbreeds too, but it started out where we wanted to have cattle. But when my husband had got out of the Army, he wanted to have a ranch, a farm, and have different, chickens and the whole shebang. Well, on the long run, it kind of turned into animal therapy for him. He hasn't really had to get a real job. I always joke with him about that he could work from home. And so it's been animal therapy for him, but we still have the cows. We show them, we sell them and whatnot. But it's definitely been a journey, a family journey, getting the kids involved as well. They'll help feed the cows too. So that's been something definitely mainly, I guess, really for my husband, even though I've always wanted cattle where I could, butcher my own animals and just have my own food, but it's turned into animal therapy for him. So it's been a positive in our family.
Nothing better than creating that great work ethic in having kids go out and, clean up after farm animals, whether it's stalls or barns or farms or ranches, and the animals, and throwing and bucking hay, and, mucking the stalls and cleaning the animals. And, I mean, there's a lot involved there. So again, you're really, it's a really good, example to set, get the kids out there, working a farm or a ranch. Let's talk about snakes. Oh man, if I see a snake, I'm disengaged. What kind of snakes?
Ball pythons.
Why?
Well, my husband's always wanted to be a herpetologist, and so he recently, because of just the inflation and everything, and agriculture is kind of hard to stay on top of everything financially. So I guess we're just both entrepreneurs. And he was like, well, let's get into snakes. And I said, okay, that's what you wanted to do since you're a kid anyway. And he's picked up on genetics. He could tell you things about animals that I can't even keep up. I'm basically just the bookkeeper as far as all the businesses that he keeps coming up with. But it's been fascinating to learn about just the genetics and the morphs and different everything. So he's kind of the face and the knowledge behind all of that. But again, it's been animal therapy for him. It's given something, because my husband does have PTSD. He can't get a job. He struggles, but he can watch the kids and he can take care of animals. And again, animal therapy is a true thing. And I think it's definitely benefited him the most. But the kids love it. They are not afraid of snakes. If we see a live copperhead or rat snake or whatever, my husband does explain to the kids, these are the good ones, these are the bad ones. If they have these markings, like he can explain everything about anything. But with the snake business, we're still on the beginning side of everything as far as being a true business, but it's coming along real well. And he's very excited about it. He's very good at networking. He's talking it up. And so we'll see what happens in the future with all of that.
Wow. That is really cool. And like you said, animal therapy is very real, especially with horses. The equine therapy. Do you guys have any horses out there on the ranch too?
Unfortunately not. My daughter would love one, but no, not right now.
Coming soon, I'm sure. Right?
Maybe.
That's the next chapter, right?
Maybe. We'll see.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Folks, we are being joined by Betsy Ross, a U.S. Army veteran and an author. She has a series out called Fight. And how can you find her books? Simple. Go to Amazon, search Fight by Betsy Ross, and you will see 4 books there. And 1, 2, 3, and 4. with all different subtitles, but the name on all of them is Fight by Betsy Ross. Now, what she does on a daily basis is she raises awareness across the country about mental health and veteran homelessness. And, she does that by, again, through her writings, through going on podcasts, going on social media, so on and so forth. And you can also connect with Betsy Ross today on her website, fightwithbetsyross.com. That's fightwithbetsyross.com. I'm going to give you the final words here, Betsy. If somebody's going through some struggles right now, if somebody's going through some challenges, and they're looking for some words of encouragement, what would you say?
Keep fighting the fight.
Keep fighting the fight. 4 words.
Always.
There you go.
Yep.
Keep fighting the fight. It's worth it, right? Get 1% better.
Yep.
Well, listen, I want to thank you for joining us today. We sincerely appreciate you coming on and sharing a little bit about you and what you do and your books and, your past service, your family, your cattle, your snakes. I mean, it sounds like you got a very interesting life indeed.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So, again, I appreciate you coming on and sharing some of that with us and our audience today. And I wish you nothing but the best moving forward for you and your family.
Thank you. Thank you.
Folks, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the program. It has never been easier to listen to this podcast. Now, the Today with Tally podcast is now on Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TikTok, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So really, there's no reason to not listen and engage with the Today with Tally podcast, and always hit like and subscribe. And if there's a place there to give us a rating, give us a rating. We would certainly appreciate it. And that would help get our message out and, just really tell them the stories of America's finest men and women, that will definitely help you in this walk that we call life. Now, folks, remember to stay inspired, stay encouraged, stay motivated, and always stay in the fight. Until next time, for the Today with Tally podcast, this is Brian Tally. Good night, Semper Fi, and God bless.